I'd like to call the December 2nd, 2021 work session to order. Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mrs. Judah Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Scarce?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes. Will you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have the mission statement, which will be read by Phoenix Williams of the Early Learning Center.
Yeah.
Where do I put it? How do I start? The mission is the. Oh, that's loud. The mission of the Trotwood-Madison City School is to graduate all students prepared to excel in a global society with a commitment to lifelong learning by guaranteeing a challenging curriculum facilitated by an innovative and dedicated staff, community participation, and state-of-the-art resources in a stimulated atmosphere.
Well, Phoenix, you are the first person to ever memorize it, including me. I have never even memorized it, and I have done it for 4 years. Wow. That is fantastic.
It was.
Miss Jeter Freeman, how many times have you seen it? And have you memorized it yet? You've been on the board, what, 28, 35, 100 years? And you still haven't memorized it. Phoenix, Miss Jeter Freeman has been here for 100 years. And she still hasn't memorized it. That is great. You did such a good job. That was great. Wow. That was so good. I now need a motion. I now need a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
So moved. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any changes to the agenda? I do have a question, Dr. Cosby. I know that when we do the agenda planning session, we always just add an executive session. Do you have anything you want to discuss tonight? Because I do not.
I do not either.
Let's go ahead and remove the executive session.
Okay.
So we're going to take that off. That's item 9. We'll remove that executive session. We just always add it just in case we have items. Is there anything else we need to change on the agenda for this evening? If there are no other changes, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Scarce?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews? Mr. Andrews? She called you.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
So, yeah. I was calling the roll on the.
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Jeter Freeman
Yes.
and Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes. Did she? I'm just, okay. So the agenda
I'm
has
sorry.
been, did you get Mr. I don't know.
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
Yeah,
The
she
agenda has been approved with the changes. Okay, so we'll move forward with the next item on the agenda, which are the presentations.
Do we have to use this? Yes, the first one is Sierra Elam.
Right. On our list, Sierra Elam and Valerie Job both have freestanding appointments, and they're unable to make it at this time. So I have put before you the information that they wanted to share, so you should see their paperwork before you. Rhonda Traylor, she had a death in her family today, and so she is unable to attend as well. So I put the paperwork in front of you. So we will not be having any of those presentations today.
Okay. So
So Sierra, okay, Valerie and Rhonda are out.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha, thank you. So next up is the board report. So Mr. Scarce, you want to talk about that?
This was approval of out-of-state travel expenditures from the latest travel from myself and Ms. Moore. And you should see the attachment there.
Okay.
The attachment with the amounts per diem for the NAPSI conference, Career Tech conference, and another NAPSI conference.
Okay. And then, let's see. And I guess there are two, I don't know why I have two things.
Well,
Yes,
one is
that's
A
okay.
and one is B, and I'll let Ms. Allen go into A, and then we'll go into B.
Okay.
So, A, after speaking with Mr. Scarce and Ms. Moore, they advised me to bring it to the board so that the board could approve the per diem payment to Ms. Moore and then the reimbursement. I have still reconciled because we haven't gotten the bank statements yet. But the per diem piece was not what we normally do. And so what I put in front of you was the bylaws that govern the compensation for board members. And so I wanted you guys to give me the authorization to pay the per diem payment that Ms. Moore had asked me to do.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the out-of-state travel expenditures under item A.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions or any other discussion about those out-of-state travel expenditures?
Now, the difference, I'm not familiar with per diem because we never done per diem. So and I've not looked at this yet.
So the only difference, based off what we've done previously, is that the per diem was paid up front based off the amount of days that the conference was. So typically, each board member or each employee upon travel is allotted a particular amount that they can spend per day based off where we are.
Off the IRS, off
Is
of
it-
IRS. So IRS has meal allotments per city. So if you go to Columbus, Ohio, it's obviously less than if you go to Los Angeles. So we have been historically using the CONUS guidelines, and that's the IRS guidelines, to dictate what the total cost would be for every day. And our policy, however, and we need to update the policy, it doesn't state that we pay per diems. We talked about that. I thought it had been updated. What happened is there's two different, one is a policy for the employees, and then the board policy was the old 147 that you see in front of you. And if you turn on the back side, it says that in order for the board members will be reimbursed, particularly if receipts are detailing the amount and expense. And so Mr. Scarce and I talked about it, and we do need to amend or update our policy to cover the per diem payments.
Yeah. It looks like it's out of date, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But this amount is in line with what the daily rate was for the city that she was in. So there isn't any additional cost. It was just upfront instead of reimbursable, if that makes any sense.
Okay, so you were paying us per diem, we were just providing you receipts.
Yeah,
Is
you were providing the receipts that you incurred in terms of the expenses.
And so
So-
it could only be up to the amount.
Exactly.
Right.
The maximum amount was either the 407 as an example. That would have been the maximum. And generally, even I've talked to other treasurers, one for Warrensville, and Ms. Moore had mentioned Warrensville treasurer. What he does is he does per diem, but he requires receipts. And so I think we just need to make that very clear. If we do per diem, we will still require the receipts.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes,
and Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes. The item A, under board report, the approval of out-of-state travel expenditures has been approved. Item B,
Item B is the approval of training compensation. We amended or updated that particular policy in 2018, that training less than 3 hours was $60 per day. Training more than 3 hours was $125 per day. So this particular attachment shows the amount of the training in line with that particular policy and the hours that was reported. Ms. Allen?
do you have anything to add? That's what it is.
I don't have anything to add. We've never done this, and we're going, so, again, in front of you, under PO Policy 147, and I highlighted it, and that is the language.
So I
And so
need-
there was a discussion between what a training program was versus a conference, but Warrensville Heights does their training, they do pay their board members for going to a conference. But, and everybody does it differently, so Dayton doesn't do it the same, so everybody does it differently. So it's up to the Board of Education to dictate how you guys want to handle that. And so that, Mr. Scares asked me to put this in front of the board, and that's why I'm putting that in front of the board for your approval.
I need a motion for the approval of training compensation.
I'll move.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Is there any other questions or comments, any more conversation about the training compensation for board members?
So we'll consider training, because we've been to conferences since this. I've never submitted for compensation for it.
We should.
For conferences.
This was, you said 2018? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
I
that was a
remember
part of the
us
updated 2018.
discussing it, and I remember us revising the policy. I guess I never looked at it close enough to know.
Yeah, I do too. I remember us discussing. I remember it. I do remember it, yeah.
And I did speak with Neola, and it was just his opinion. His definition of a training program was similar to like if you went to the public records training that you and I went to, as opposed to going to a conference. That was his delineation, but like he said, and he emphatically said, it's up to the board to define what the training program is. So is a training program the same as a conference? So he said that's just his opinion, and that's just his opinion.
So even with providing this, the board, though, is still capped at whatever the 5,000.
And that does not, this money
No.
is not added on to that 5,000. That's in addition to, because it says additionally, members may receive compensation for attendance at training programs. So
I
that's
just wanna
over and
make
above
sure.
the 5,000.
The 5,000, though,
Yes.
is in relation to the amount of
Meeting.
meetings that we have
Okay,
in our role as board members. So that cap does not change. Anything additional, though, is not included in that cap.
5,000.
okay. Yeah, because I wouldn't want to be writing another check for having too many meetings.
I don't want you either.
Right, okay. Any other comments, questions?
So that is
You-
further discuss, I'm
Okay.
thinking it through.
Yes, uh-huh.
So it is training for board, because even our new board members, when they go to get, it specifically says it's new board training. And some of those sessions we attend are specifically, they are training.
Absolutely.
We've never submitted anything for that, but
Right.
even for, if you're president, then there's training for board president.
Yeah, so that's above and beyond, yeah. Agreed. Anything else? And again, so that's what this board will just have to, I guess it's anything this board decides is training.
And let me add, just while we're in this moment, Ms. Cherry, since you're going to be coming on the board, also, if new board members want to participate in any training provided by the district or any training provided by anybody, if you want to attend as a new board member, you have the luxury to do that. I don't think it's anything that we've not done before. There were a ton of new board members that had just gone through the election at OSBA in Columbus, just there to get training. So if you want to do that, if you see something or you find something that you want to participate in, I would let Ms. Allen know and get that booked for you.
And I think they will actually send you, once you sign up for their email, they'll send you information and request that you attend the new board member training is what it will be.
Yep.
All right. If there is nothing else, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes?
Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
and Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes, the motion carries. Moving on to item 4, the treasurer's report.
Okay, I only have one item for you this evening, and that is for information. 4A is approval of minutes for November 4th, 2021, and November 18th, 2021.
Okay, so those are just for information for those 2 November meetings. Okay, thank you, Ms. Allen. Moving on to item 5, superintendent's report.
Yes, my first item is the approval of the student activity purpose statement and budget, and this is for our FFA. We are still working on that MOU to actually get it into the negotiated agreement as well as the diversity club. So neither of them right now are official clubs because we don't have them in, and of course we haven't voted on them, so that has to happen as well. But even prior to that, so we're working on an MOU to see if we can get those in right now so that we can move forward with this. But they did turn in their student activity purpose statement and wanted to have it here for information so that at the next board meeting we could
Was that-
potentially
Was it
approve it.
attached?
It's attached. Yeah. This one is for the Future Farmers of America.
Oh, I
and-
see it, okay.
Yeah. They're estimating revenue of $2,500 and estimating expenditures of $2,452.
Dr. Cosby?
Yes.
Do you know if the membership dues fees, if that is that like just a set fee for a membership, or is that based on the number of participants in the FFA? Do you know?
Ms. Allen can answer that question for you.
Because I saw it just recently, there are 56 students that signed up apparently for FFA, and it's $1
Wow.
per student, so the total bill is $56.
That is
Right.
awesome.
Good, yeah.
And those are all high school students, right?
Yes. They're high school students.
Very good.
Okay, and my next one, Jen, so is this to be shared? I didn't see it.
Yeah, that's there. I'm sorry, that's it.
Okay, the next one is the estimate for the cost from Future Ed Solutions for our virtual academy. And for first semester, we're looking at $220,920. And this is again for semester. We had estimated approximately $500,000 to run the virtual academy, so we are right on point with that.
What is our enrollment there now? Are we at capacity?
We are at capacity. You know, as we've talked about, we're wanting to expand it, but we sort of put a hold on it at about 150. So that, you know, entails, of course, you know, getting some mentors and doing some things to have that opportunity to expand.
So the one thing we have to be intentional about doing is tracking our progress. So we have it at capacity, but who's looking to see that those students are achieving
Right.
and passing the grade? And as a part of our meeting next week, I do want to see our numbers
Okay.
for everything, like our attendance at the beginning of the year, our discipline numbers, and we normally get those anyway. I think we're a little late now, but I do want to see those so that we can see if we're getting still, you know, the capacity is there, but we want to make sure that they're learning and
Right.
succeeding.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and you had asked the question, who monitors this? You know, that is the job of the mentors, and all the students are assigned, you know, to those mentors, and they have their teachers who, of course, are monitoring. So, you know, parents are being made aware, and that's how we made some change at the end of the first quarter, and we would potentially make some change at the end of the semester based on if a student is not being successful.
Right.
Yeah, so it is being monitored, and
So-
I think,
And I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
no,
I'm
that's
sorry
okay.
about that. And I do remember we were doing that, and I guess what my real question was, how many of those have we had to push back to in person because they didn't fit the online?
I'll have those exact numbers for you, but I can tell you, it was not very many.
Yeah,
It was not very many.
that's very good.
Yeah, so
And
that's
then if we could just keep track, and not that we aren't already, so it's capped about 150, you said, right?
Yes.
So we roughly receive, what, $6,000, $7,000 per child?
when we do an academy, yes,
Yeah.
for our school, yes.
So if we estimated $500,000 per year, we're already at 220. The program itself is paying for itself.
Right.
You know, 150 kids at $7,000 a piece is about $1 million something, around $1 million.
Yeah.
So as long as we can maintain, you know, the justification that it pays for itself, you know, I don't see any reason why we should not
Continue.
continue in those numbers.
I
But-
agree with you.
Now, let's think through it. These are students that would otherwise, and I know our target was to get those students that would otherwise not be at Trotwood. But I know, because I
Right.
know some of the students that are there,
Right.
they were already at Trotwood. So it's not a clean
Well,
additional
sorta.
million.
And I know what you're saying. Sort of, kind of, it's separate, right? Because it's a separate entity. It was
Right.
designed to be a separate entity. So whether those children were originally Trotwood students or whether they were not originally Trotwood students, the program is still paying for itself. And so my thing would be, just as long as the program continues to pay for itself and is, you know, meeting what the initial need was, I say expand it.
And I do think, you're right, initially, we didn't realize it would be so many, you know, current students who were Trotwood students. We had anticipated and still want to pull students, you know, who are in other schools. But I will say this, some of those students may have chosen to go to other schools if we did not have the
Right.
virtual option
True.
for them. So we might have lost that money. So if we look at it that way, you know, it still is a benefit to us to have this option available for those students. I was going to mention this in my comments, but I will go on and mention it now as a part of that question too. How will we continue to monitor and to grow this program? We do now have a principal of our Ram Nation Virtual Academy. Mr. Michael McCray will be serving in that position. So that will be a part of his position, is that he continues to monitor and to hopefully grow this program. So, any other questions on that one? Okay, and then I have the personnel agenda. This is again just for information at this point. So we have certified, we have recommendation for the approval of the following adjustments and credit increase. And you can see that the step there changed. And then A2 is a recommendation for the approval of the following academic supplementals for the 21-22 school year. And this position, it is called an academic supplemental. It is to meet with parents and other intervention people to provide services for students. B1, a recommendation for the approval of the following classified resignations for the 21-22 school year. B2, we have a recommendation for the approval of the following 21st century staff for the 21-22 school year. And B3, we have a recommendation for the approval of the following classified supplementals for the 21-22 school year.
I do have a question on, how many assistant band directors did we have? And Ms. Bozeman, you might know. I don't,
I'm just looking at it right now on here. There are 2 listed on here.
there's 2 listed here, but I thought we had one or so on previous. So did we add?
So are we adding 2 more? Is your
I
question?
believe that these are 2 more that are being added. I can have Mr. Bean explain to you the way they work when they have assistants, but I do know a little bit about it, that, you know, you have people who are in charge of different types of instruments, like the winds and the, you know, drums, or, you know, that type of thing. So I believe that is why we are adding more people.
So
He came in and they didn't have, you know, a full set of, he didn't have his staff.
And, you know, that's good. I want to see our band grow, so I expect, I'm okay with growing and putting those positions in place, but I need the students to support it.
Okay.
Because these are addition to what, they're new positions for the board.
And I think, you know, in that same vein, I know we have someone, or we're looking at someone for the middle school and elementary to grow somewhere in this capacity. Hopefully, they're going to be trying to grow those 2 programs as well.
Yes.
And I guess, I don't like personally the piecemeal. I need to see the whole program. So it's like, this is what I currently have, this is what I need, and this is what I'm going to provide you as a result of you of me having these additional positions.
Okay.
Because it was mentioned, I think, the intent to grow at the middle school.
Right.
Before we approve that and before it comes piecemeal, I think it would be good to see the total program.
Okay, and I'm sure Mr. Bean definitely has that vision and what he needs to make it happen. I think that, you know, he came on right at the start of school
Right.
and realized that he didn't have what he might have expected, you know, to be here. So I
And
will
I understand
talk with
that.
him about getting that piece to you all.
Yeah.
There are no other questions? I'm fine with that.
Mrs. Bozeman? I just wanted to let the board know that Mr. Nelson and Mr. Bean and myself had a meeting a couple of days ago, and we talked about his ask. So he is working on putting a budget together, and he talked about a lot of different things. He talked about, you know, we need some tubas, and we need this, and, you know, I'm not really a good band music person, but there were a lot of needs. We just said, you know, your wish list, put everything down, and then we'll just figure out how we slot that. So it could, most of the marching band are part of band class. So that could be a curriculum, or we could slot that money in the high school line. So he said he would get that for us within a week or so, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds great. Sounds great. And I do hope that we're able to grow it, and I just want us to remember that, and, you know, of course, I'm partial to it, but, I mean, I want us to remember that, often, most of the time, our band directors get our students 100% scholarships, so let's just
Right.
keep that at the forefront of our minds as we are, thinking about what we're going to be providing the band with. And this, he has the same kind of, pull and, expectation for the band as we move forward. So he is going to be growing the band, and we want him to do the same as our former band directors have done, and so we want to make sure we give him the tools he needs to make sure that happens, so. All right, let's see, where are we? We're moving with, okay, treasurer's comments. Ms. Allen, do you have anything?
I do. Okay, so one thing I wanted to say, yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before, we had an opportunity to go down to St. Clair and see the Undesigned, the Red Line exhibit.
Yeah.
My heart is still bleeding, you guys, 2 days later. It was one of those exhibits that you will never, ever, ever forget. And one thing that someone brought out to me, and I missed it, was that if you're a resident of Oakwood, your life expectancy is 20 years more than a person that is raised in West Dayton. And that just, it just brings tears.
Because they don't
to my
have to wheel
eyes.
their trash to the street.
I'm sorry?
Because they don't have to wheel their trash to the street.
That's a lot.
So
not that
they
I've been
had,
researching.
Well, they don't have it disposed.
they had a
of.
lot of just interesting stuff on the health and economics and education. Just the tremendous disparity that we all know about, but nobody kind of talks about a lot of times. And so when that exhibit comes to our district, we really do need to, put something together and really have as many people to come and really look at that exhibit as we can. So.
Well, I would like to say, I don't know that everyone knows about that. I would like to make a correction there. I think a lot of people of color know about it, because if a lot of people don't know about it, and so that's one thing we just need to correct.
Yeah.
That's why it's there. And I say that because, of course, I'm down there with it all the time. I
Yes,
hear people
exactly.
talking about it, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I never knew this existed, so. Because when you don't have to worry about it, you don't worry about it.
Exactly,
And you don't see it,
absolutely,
and it's never a part of your
absolutely,
existence. And so a lot of people don't know about it.
And then they even had an exhibit on St. Clair education and who is coming to St. Clair. And guess who's coming to St. Clair? Not us. It's the individuals that live in Germantown, up north, or somewhere way far. And that just was eye-opening for me. And then I looked at where we were, and there was the auto mechanics. And of course, I'm counting the number of African Americans that were part of that. And because that was a multi-million-dollar kind of, it was amazing. It was amazing. So
It
I
is
was
very
so
eye-opening.
glad that Dr. Cosby invited me to go to that.
Yeah, it really is. It is hard. It does break your heart when you see it. So if you haven't seen it, you should take some time to go check it out. And I'm glad we are having it here. Yeah, we should do something like a reception or something to bring people down. And yeah, it is really.
So the other thing, and we've mentioned this before, but now as Mrs. Cherry is sitting in the audience as well, the National School Board Association's conference is April 2nd through the 4th in San Diego. And to get the early bird registration discount, we have to submit those numbers by Wednesday, December 15th. So please just check your calendars and let myself and/or Yelena know, and then we can start that process.
I won't be going.
I'm not going. I will not be attending.
Do you already have Ms. Sherry and Mr. Davis' emails so that, do we have them with the district
I'm gonna get them, because I don't have.
emails?
I can pass them on to have this. Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
we'll
then
get
you
that.
can send
Yes.
them the information.
Okay, well. And that's all I had this evening.
All right, thank you, Ms. Allen. Superintendent's comments, Dr. Cosby?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I did set up the visit to see Undesign the Red Line, and I wasn't able to attend, but I did hear back because I checked with everyone, and they said the same thing that Janice is saying, how impactful it was, how exciting it was. And one of the things that as I talked with curriculum with Mr. Warner, I was thinking that that would be a definite opportunity for our students to do some project-based learning, because that's the whole idea. You get a problem, and then you think about how to fix it for your community. And so it was pointed out to me, they talked about like how we have more diabetes, for example, than other communities and things like that. So we're going to work on that possibility too as we bring our students in, you know, have them think about, is there something going on here that you could work through in a project-based learning situation. So I am really excited, and I'm glad you mentioned a reception, something like that, to encourage people to come, and we will definitely be marketing this, you know, to get our staff, students, and community involved in coming. The second thing I wanted to tell you was that today I was on a Zoom call with someone. We're working on, as we talked about before, you know, preparing for negotiations and things like that. And we were working with a young man named Daniel Richardson. He's a 1991 graduate of Trotwood-Madison, and he owns his own business, and he's doing really well. He's been at a lot of conferences and things. I met him at a BASA conference, and then we saw him again at the OSBA conference. And so I just want you to know that we do have so much to be proud of. There's so many more, you know, Trotwood graduates who are doing wonderful things, and we do need to continue to highlight those. I was really excited to work with him. Another thing I wanted to just mention again, because I've talked about it, and I know sometimes we wonder, is that still moving forward? You know, I'm on that task force for best academic practices for Black students, where we've developed our framework, and we have held stakeholder meetings, and now we're in the process of finalizing that framework for release to school districts. So that will be something that we will have as a tool in our tool belt as well for our students. So I'm excited about bringing that, you know, to fruition. We've been working on it for now the school year.
Is that the one that they had a Zoom meeting today
Yes.
with Charlotte McGuire and the
Yes.
assistant? Yeah, I didn't get a chance to Zoom in, but, so what's the purpose of that? Because I saw that, and it's like strategic plan to prepare African-American students to learn, pretty much.
So what the idea is that best practices for all students, you know, for the most part, are best practices for all students, but our African-American students, you know, tend to not do as well using the things that sometimes are so standard, you know, in other districts. So what has happened is they compiled a committee, you know, and the task force, and it's a lot of university people, it's organizations such as NAACP and school board, and there are people from all different walks of life on this committee. And so they've sort of broken down these areas into 4 groups to discuss what can we do as a school district to enhance the experience in school and to provide the curriculum needed to do all the things that will ensure that African American students have the same opportunity to succeed as all other students. So that was one of the very first things that people talked about, should we say, for Black students. But at some point we have to acknowledge that, because it is Black students that are not doing as well as other students. So that's basically what that is. And in the framework, it's not a requirement. It's never going to be a mandate, one more thing that we have to do as a district, because, you know, we got plenty of that. But it is something that, if you are concerned about that, and in our case, you know, of course, we are predominantly African American school district, but even a school district with 20 minority students will use it, because they'll say, well, why are my African American students not being as successful as my other students? Maybe I need to consult this. So that's sort of the purpose. It's really interesting, and again, I will be, I can share more with you as we get it finalized. It's on the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then finally, I have just got the information today I had requested, and Mr. Stone came through. We do have our 2 students who will be participating as members of our board, I do want to get a little bit more information. Do we expect them at every meeting? But we will have time to talk about that. But we have a junior selected and a senior selected, and we're hoping to induct them as we do our other new members. So that's sort of exciting. I thought you'd like to hear that.
Yes.
Yeah, great news.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, moving on to board comments, Mr. Andrews.
Yes, I have several things. I gave you a break last week, so. The first one, I just wanted to comment on the reading of the mission statement. They just keep getting better and better.
I'm telling you.
And that was really
Very
excellent
impressive.
to hear that youngster get up there and a lot of presence, a lot of personality, and that was really good. The second one is I was very pleased to hear about the startup numbers for the FAA, and hopefully they can get that going and sustain that enthusiasm and grow that program. That's really
Yeah.
It's really a new kind of a frontier for us, and I'm really interested to see how that continues to grow. The third one, kind of piggyback off of the comments about the redlining. It's kind of coincidental, and I don't know if it's the season or what, but I was reading also about a rather massive undertaking that's now starting to be made aware in the public about contracts in housing. When people buy housing, they're looking back at all of these municipalities that had written in the contracts specific restrictions on who could purchase a house and where they could live. And some of these are in like city charters and things like that. And now there's a project that's starting that's trying to swell nationwide to go back and examine a lot of these charters for purchase of housing. Most of them are kind of ignored, but they're still there. And I think the impetus for this move is to strike that language from these contracts. And of course, there's those who don't want to, as always, not necessarily for any other reason other than the old idea, the old adage of letting a sleeping dog lie. But in this era of discovery, I think that's kind of interesting, goes hand in hand with that. Also, the project promoting exposure to the things that are offered at Sinclair, hopefully that'll really get going, because there are a lot of opportunities. And the only other place I've been that seemed to have that many opportunities was maybe like the, I'm going to call it by the wrong name, it's not the Joint Vocational School anymore. But that was always exciting, taking our middle school students there and then going down to Sinclair and seeing where that just, it's almost like the same thing on steroids. There's just so many opportunities. And it is really kind of tragic that a lot of our kids are not availing themselves of this. And hopefully they're aware of them, and then we need to find out what we can do to motivate and inspire our kids to become more of a participatory kind of a presence in those settings. In terms of our presentations that we didn't hear today, I would still like for those folks to come in at their next available opportunity. And with all due respect for Ms. Traylor, when she feels up to it, I would like to hear from them as well. I think that's more effective than sitting here reading stuff off the page. And it's a lot more enlightening as well, I think. And then we get to meet them.
Right.
I'd also like to know, are we tracking and notifying our seniors of their progress and where they are at this point in time in the school year? And if they're still doing senior projects, where they are with those, and if they are reaching their benchmarks appropriately and getting enough help with that and enough encouragement and things to keep them on pace so they can do that, so they can roll out of here with some level of comfort as opposed to stress in the spring.
Okay.
So I'd like to see something kind of presented or given to us.
For sure.
To let us know where that is.
Okay.
I think that's everything.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Ms. Jeter Freeman, any comments?
Just commenting on our student from the ELC. She is such a little leader. She was so comfortable. And I don't know if we have student government or honor society over there, but she needs to be president of it as soon as she moves up. So I think that was pretty much all I had. I guess one other side note, we have a Trotwood Alumni LinkedIn page, I think, that's there. So we have Trotwood Alumni here, so Ms. Bozeman, are you on there?
We have a Trotwood Alumni LinkedIn page?
Yes,
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm barely on LinkedIn.
I know. Okay, all right, so now you can get on.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. Okay.
And will we get a list of the things we have for our meeting next week, the agenda items, to make sure what's covered or if we need to add anything else? I know you mentioned that you were taking care of it, but if you would send it out. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, could I? One
Sure.
other thing. I went and got my booster yesterday over at the CVS here in Trotwood. And I was really pleased when I went in, sat down with the young lady. I have a needle phobia, so I was trying to be conversational. And I asked how she was doing, and she said she was kind of tired. And I pursued it, okay, why, what's going on. And she said they had been slammed recently with people coming in to get their vaccines and or their boosters. And so I thought that was really a positive thing. And I want to just congratulate the community, those who are participating for participating.
Goodness, thank you. Mr. Scares, any comments?
Nope.
No comments. Okay, so that means it's on me. Well, I got my booster as well, Mr. Andrews, because I went to go to the Pacers game 3 weeks ago, and I went to the Bengals game Sunday. So I knew I had to have all these sports events lined up, so I've been dying to go. So I did get mine as well. And Dr. Cosby, my counterpart is, she's one of the leads on this redlining project, and she teaches, of course, geography. And I never thought that geography could be so engaging. It's kind of like what you were saying, Mr. Andrews, how, we don't know what some of these majors are or how it kind of like leads you in different, career paths until we, really see what all it entails. And so when she was talking about these maps, and she's going even deeper, she's going to be looking into what majors, where people who choose certain majors live. And she's going she's diving deep. She's like, that's all and it's like so interesting to me. And I just sit there and listen to her like, man, this is so interesting. And I never knew geography could be so interesting, And I just think about our students, how they just have no idea, what's out there and how fascinating a lot of this stuff really is. And so I'm glad that maybe we can start introducing them to things that they never even considered. But I say all that to say she created these study guides too. They're pretty general. You can change whatever you want. But I have those, and I can forward those to you if you like. Yeah. And but they're not lengthy. It can be like extra credit stuff. Once we get the exhibit here.
Yes.
And our students they can. Teachers can use them as they wish,
I appreciate that because that was one of the other things that I had spoken to Mr. Warner about. He had said that he didn't know if it would hold the students' interest enough without them having a study guide or something to get them to actually read some of the words, versus just walking by and looking. Mm-hmm. So we had thought about something along those lines. No need to recreate the
I'll forward you those because she did they're not, and there's not like a whole bunch of them,
right.
just so you're not bogged down.
Yeah.
But she did create those, so I can send you
I would
that as well.
appreciate that.
Mhm,
Thank
so
you.
That'd be good. And I think that was it for me. So thank you all for staying with us. We're getting out pretty early, no executive session, 6:20. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Any comments, questions?
A happy belated birthday.
Thank you, thank you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you,
Happy
thank you.
belated birthday.
Hearing none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes?
and Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes, meeting adjourned. Oh, Ms. Cherry, can we speak, can I speak to you real quick? Yes, have a good evening.
I did bring her book.
You said what?
You wanted to start, I brought her some bread.
Did you really? You are something.
Even though you didn't respond to that.